All right, and we're live. Hello, everybody. I'm Daniel Miller, and I'm at the Spiral Gardens Community Food Security Project. Hopefully, everything's working right. Let me know. My doggy's saying hello. What's up, buddy? Why don't you go? Go, go, go. So, yeah, this is going to be part of our ongoing series of online video classes that we're doing, trying to get the education out there so that people doing gardening at home, well, specifically for us, vegetable gardening and herbs and habitat, any kind of garden really, can have the information they need in order to succeed. This is something that we've been working on for 27 years of trying to bridge the generational gap of knowledge that's about how to grow things that's kind of happened in our modern urban industrial society. And also just very timely right now because of COVID. A lot of people are home. Probably about 5 times more people are gardening right now. It seems like, just by our estimates, the number of people coming here because they're home and they have time. It makes a lot of sense right now. And, you know, we've seen supply lines threatened. And, so it's good to have your own source of food. And it's also a really good time to really bolster your immune system with the benefits of healthy organic veggies. And you can go to the farmer's market. Maybe you can go to the farmer's market now. You can. It's a little bit more difficult than it used to be. And you go to the store and get them. But nothing beats what you grow yourself. And it's also just a really nice therapeutic activity. It's good for your emotions, good for releasing some of the tensions that we're having nowadays as far as being able to just cope with the times. Go, Dougie, go, go, go. So I've set up a little thing today. The last 3 classes we've talked about fall winter veggie gardening and what's appropriate to plant right now. After that, we talked about soil and fertility. And then after that, I talked a lot about pest and disease that you might encounter in your veggie garden. So today, I thought we could put it all together and actually plant some vegetables and kind of, take everything we've learned, put together. Today's gonna be really simple. A lot of people right now don't have, especially in the urban environment, don't have yards. Some people do. Some people have access to land in their backyard. Some people have front yards. Some people have access in other ways, like through community gardens or at their work or other projects. But if you don't have access to the ground directly at all, this is a way you can do it. It's container gardening. And a lot of people in the city garden in the container. So I thought this would just be a nice, discrete example of how to grow some food in a pot this big. So this is a 25-gallon pot. It's just black plastic. There's a lot of containers you can use for this sort of thing. This we sell here for 20 bucks. It's a lot of plastic for 20 bucks. It's durable. It lasts a long time. A lot of folks don't like plastic. You can use ceramics, you can use wood, you can use whatever you want. These work really well. They're easy. They are recyclable as long as the recycling operations are actually functioning correctly. And it's just a lot cheaper option and more ready to go than some others. So not saying you have to use this one, but it's just a good, easy option. And the plants actually like it, believe it or not. The plastic actually keeps the moisture in the lower areas. It's more like the ground where it dries from the top but doesn't dry from the sides. Unglazed ceramic pots will dry more from the sides. That's more appropriate for things like cactus or things that are super drought tolerant. But for veggies, this will work pretty well. And got some veggies here. I've got some others over here. We'll see what we can get into here. I've got another pot ready to go. I'm not sure if we'll get to that one or not, but I wanted to at least get this one together and put as much food as possible in here without overdoing it. And if we overplant, it's going to be intentional, and we'll talk about how we're going to manage that. So the primary thing for this one is going to be some dino kale. And I've got this 6-pack that's actually not all the way full here. This is just 4 of them, because that's about as much as I think as you can actually get in here. The brassicas, the kales, the cabbages, the broccolis, cauliflowers, they're really heavy feeders. And so, hi Lorraine, how you doing? Hopefully you guys can see my face in the pot. The video taken is actually bigger than what I can actually see in the frame of my camera. So hopefully that's working out. If you can't, let me know. But these types of veggies take a lot of nutrition, a lot of space. I mean, you can grow one kale in a pot this big, and that kale would be, thank you Lorraine, the kale would be perfectly happy with that. But of course that's not very economical for us, and that's not going to be enough food. So we're going to, knowing this, we're going to see how much we can get in here, and it's going to be about timing, it's going to be about spacing. I tend to talk too long, so I'm going to try to move this along because we're going to try to get this done right now. So dino kale is going to be our centerpiece. Around that I'm going to fit some stuff that grows more quickly. So oh yeah, and the dino kale, I just picked this because it just have a few. Normally our 6 packs of dino kale look like this, but that's more than I need right now for just this one pot. So for the purpose of this video, I'm going to use this one that's got 4 of them in it. And then interplanted with that, among other things, I've got some gailan here. And it's Asian, I think primarily Chinese vegetable. I've encountered it mostly in eating in Chinatown. It's kind of like a mini broccoli. It's fast, and we should be able to fit it in between the kale. I've got some cilantro here, and that's also fast, and we can fit it around some of these other things. And then some other possibilities we're going to try to fit in here. So in here, inside the pot, I've got the soil we're going to use. First here, let me put this aside. This is some fertilizer. We'll talk about this when we get there. And then I wanted to figure out, at least from our nursery, how much soil it would take to fill this pot and what's the best combo of them that we can do. So I've got 2 of these bags. This is our bulk soil. This comes from Acapulco Rocket Soil. This is a mixture that they call Clodbuster. It's meant for breaking up the heavy clay soil of the Bay Area. So it's pretty coarse. It's got a lot of rock, small pumice rock. It's got sand. It's got some fir bark. It's got composted rice hulls and chicken manure and some other compost organic material in there. And because it's coarse, it actually works really well for a container. A container wants drainage, and one of the things that defines a potting soil is, besides the fact that you've prepared and added to a pot, is that should have a lot of drainage, so that when you water it, the water can penetrate through here, and it doesn't stay too wet, but it has plenty of organic material and stuff to absorb that moisture and hold it. So we're going to use 2 bags of the Clodbuster, and then I'm going to use 1 bag of this other potting soil from Down to Earth is the brand from the distributor we get here. They're a nice family company up in Oregon, and this is a much lighter potting soil than the other, and I find that the 2 go really well together. We talked about this in the soil and fertility class. This is mostly composted wood product, but it's pretty well composted, so to the point where it's like black humus, lignin rich soil. It's got a little perlite in here as an aggregate for drainage, but not really enough to really amount to much. But anyway, we found from our experience that these 2 soils mix together really well, and this is a good ratio to mix them in, and it's also just enough to fill this pot. Not quite, but close enough. So if you were going to invest in this, to do this, this pot we sell for 20 bucks, and this bag is a little expensive too, but it's really premium stuff. It's 13 bucks, and then these 2 are 6. So you got 45 bucks plus tax to get this system we're about to put together, and plus plants. You could do the plants yourself from seed, plus fertilizer. You could also figure out your own fertilizer and everything like that. So container gardening is an initial investment versus a bit more than just working in the ground that you have around you, if you have it around you. But once you have it, you have it. this soil is not going to go bad. We're going to be able to add to it over time, feed it, improve it. And so that $45 for this gets you going, and then you have an option to garden. You got a little bit of real estate, which you didn't have before. And there's other ways to do it. It doesn't have to be this big. I'm going big with this because that just gives us more options. We can grow a little bit more food, but you could keep it pretty small if you wanted to and go cheaper. But of course you'd be able to grow less things. So I'm going to pull a wheelbarrow in here, and we're going to mix the soil up, and we're going to fill this pot, and we're going to plant it. So let me grab the wheelbarrow. All right, got a nice bright wheelbarrow here, nice and yellow. So I'm going to take this soil, and I'm just going to dump it in here. Maybe to help me mix it, I'll dump half of it first, and then I'll dump one of these bags in here of the clod buster. This is our coarser bulk soil, mixing it with our lighter potting soil. So one of those, and then maybe we'll do the other half of this down to earth potting soil right there. And then I'm going to go ahead and add the rest, the other bag of the clod buster. Excuse me. Okay, so there's that. We're going to work on mixing those together. I'm doing this in the wheelbarrow because I have one and it makes it a lot easier. If you didn't, you could do it in portions right in the pot there. You could do it on the ground in a pile and then sweep up afterwards. You could do it on a tarp. You can do it in a tub. You can do it whatever you got. Now, I'm working outside here at Spiral Gardens at 2850 Sacramento Street. So you hear the sounds of the traffic. Right now we got a garbage truck, or actually a recycling truck, even better, across the street. So that's just the ambiance of our urban environment here. It is what it is. So before I'm done mixing this up, I'm going to add a little fertilizer to it. Now, this soil that I'm adding here is probably already fairly rich. That clod buster has been coming pretty hot, pretty rich, with a good amount of that chicken manure compost in there. And the down to earth soil has a fair amount of nutrient, not a ton, but I know that the plants will need nutrient before it's done. So I'm going to go ahead and add it now. I know that I'm going to be on the edge of it being a little rich right now, but I also want things to grow kind of fast right now because traditionally, at least with our previous climate patterns, you wanted to get your winter veggies, fall winter veggies big before you got to the coldest part of the winter, because they'll still be fine through the coldest part, which is usually like January, end of January, beginning of February traditionally. Of course it keeps changing, so I keep having to give caveats with that. They'd be fine at that point, but they wouldn't be growing much. So you'd want to use the warmer part of the year to get them up to size so you have something big enough to harvest from when you get to that point. Now, of course, with global warming, at least it's been global warming for us in the Bay Area. Other people have had different experiences, but for the most part, that's what we've had here through the winters. Things actually will keep growing, even in what were the coldest parts of the year. So it's a lot more lenient for us for growing. There's of course cons to that, but that is a plus to it, is that we can grow more food year round. But anyway, to accelerate the growth, to allow me to get more out of this pot, I'm going to add this fertilizer. There's a lot of fertilizer you can add. This is also from our down to earth distributor. It's just who we use here. We feel pretty good about them. But this one they call biofish. They could just call it fish, but I'm using this one because we talked about in our second class, this first number here starts for nitrogen. So this is a really nitrogen rich fertilizer, which for the stuff that you grow in the winter, leafy greens, nitrogen promotes leafy growth. So it will make the leaves grow faster and we'll get more food. It's also good for stems. And the middle number here is phosphorus, and that's good for flowering and fruiting. So if you were growing broccoli, it would be really good for that. So yeah, this is a pretty potent fertilizer. It'll work for what we got here. On the back, it gives a bunch of directions. It says for vegetable gardens, 5 pounds per 100 square feet. And for outdoor containers, which is what we're doing, it says for new plantings, add 2 tablespoons per gallon of soil and mix thoroughly, or 5 to 10 pounds per cubic yard. For established plants, lightly mix 1 to 2 tablespoons per gallon into the soil. So I'm going to do this really scientifically. And just from experience, what I know will work and not be too much. I got a little scoop in here already. I'm going to add about that much. That's what it looks like. So yeah, I'm just going to sprinkle that on here, and then we're going to continue mixing. Let me grab my shovel, and then yeah, we're just going to get this reasonably mixed. I'm doing it right here in front of you so you can see how much work this involves. And I'm just going to try to get it all the way down to the bottom. My method is I usually make a little trench and I just kind of work it across. So I'm mixing, getting all the way down, not just mixing the surface of the wheelbarrow. It's a fair amount of soil to mix, so take your time. Don't hurt yourself. You know, you're not doing this live on Facebook, so you can take as long as you need to just enjoy it, experience the soil, and yeah. Use good body mechanics, you know, keep your back straight, and take the time you need to get a fair amount of soil mixed up. Soil's heavy, and it's kind of preposterous. Humans think they can move it around, do stuff with it, but we can, and the good stuff is going to come out of it. So I'm going to say for now, that's pretty good. I could have done it more. But I'm going to throw it in this pot here, and that's also going to give it one more mix as it goes in. So here we go. We're going to fill our little container garden here, our nice pot, and get ready to plant it. So yeah, if you guys have any questions, I can see your comments, so please feel free to chat away, ask any questions you have, or add any suggestions you have, what your experience has been with this kind of thing, if you have any experience with this. Again, this is pretty straightforward, but when people come in from the public to buy stuff from us here, I'm coaching people all day long on how to do this. So now when they come in this weekend and they say how to do this, I'll say, hey, look at Thursday's video, and there'll be a total how-to right here of how to do it. There we go. Here's the last of it. Let me just get this bright yellow wheelbarrow out of the frame. This is my favorite knee pad. It's just a piece of cardboard. Nice and economical and recyclable. So yeah, that was just about enough. I filled it up pretty high. Wait, why don't you put small rocks before the soil goes in? That's something that has actually been debunked. As far as used to be the thing people would do is put a layer of small rocks or gravel at the bottom because they wanted to facilitate the drainage. But the way that soil works, there's this thing called capillary action, where the bottom of the soil is going to hold a certain amount of moisture no matter what. So if you put small rocks at the bottom of the pot, you know, like say you put 2 inches of them, that wet part of the soil is just going to move up to here. So effectively, you've just made your container smaller. The roots would still make it down to those rocks and stuff. And you've moved the wet part just closer up to the base of the plants. So folks don't really recommend that anymore. This pot has some big holes going all the way around the outsides, and that should be enough to give it enough drainage. And not putting the rocks actually takes the wet part further down, further away from the base of the plant. So, you know, it's just, yeah, people change what they think about things as they go along. So, you know, there's no absolute right answer to that. It wouldn't hurt per se, but it's just not really done as much as it used to be. Sure, Liza. Thank you for asking that question. So, I've got a little bit of room in here still, and as we water, this is going to settle. And it's a lot of traffic right now. At 3 o'clock, the street kind of wakes up a lot of people going home. But this is going to settle as we water it. And this is plenty of soil, really. But this is all the soil these plants get. So I'm going to beef it up with this a little bit more. I've got some compost here, just some straight compost. And again, this is probably more than these plants need. But I'm just going to throw a few handfuls on top. Just to give it a little bit more soil, a little bit more nutrient. I'm not going to thoroughly mix this in either, because in nature this is how it would go, is that the most composty layer would be at the top. This is a little twiggy. I'm just going to pull those out and throw them out. And I am going to mix this a little bit, but not all the way down. I'm just going to incorporate this with the first few inches at the top of the soil here. So it's not just compost at the top, mainly just for texture purposes so that the water will penetrate in. And there we go. We added like another inch of soil there. It's gonna settle, you can see, but you know, also we can keep using this container over time, and next time we plant, after we do this round and this soil gets a little bit more depleted, we'll add more compost to it again. So every time we replant this thing, we'll put another inch or two of compost and mix that in, and we know we'll have room to do that too. And maybe you could add a little more fertilizer to at that point. You got to feed the soil each time you plant. So this initial investment is good to go for the long term, as long as you feed the soil each time. So that's already getting into what happens after this crop is done. Yeah, so okay, now it's the fun time. Now it's time to plant. Not that that wasn't fun before. So yeah, we talked about our foundation planting in this is going to be our dino kale. I don't know if you guys can read that or not. Oh, it's backwards because I have to be in selfie mode for this. Fat lot of good that's going to do you. JJ Sexton, hoping to grow garlic in grow bag containers. Any special tips, recommendations would be appreciated. Do you think we can grow hardneck in our neighborhood? I've only been refrigerating it. The rest of it got cut off. See more since 10/24. Yeah. You can definitely grow garlic. In fact, right here, I got some garlic. I didn't get hardneck garlic because I wanted to order some from the seed companies, but they were selling it for like 25 bucks a pound for seed garlic, and I'm like, no. And I didn't see it at Berkeley Bowl yet, but it will grow fine. To my knowledge, hardneck doesn't grow that much differently than regular white garlic. So yeah, we'll plant some of this in here too. It doesn't really have any other special needs. The only thing special about growing garlic in here is it's going to lock up its space for a while. Garlic takes from, ideally if you want a fat bulb, you plant it in October and it goes all the way till about next August before it's done. So it'll be in here for a while. Now you could eat it early as spring garlic, but you know, it'll work either way. Eniel Cruz, I missed the beginning of the video. What mix do you have in the container, and where do you get such a large container? So we sell this container here. This is a 25-gallon ABS black plastic pot. We sell it for 20 bucks. And in the mix we put in here, I put 2 of these bags we use for our bulk, more coarse potting mix. Well, we're using it as a potting mix. It's a product called Clodbuster that comes from Acapulco Rock and Soil. It's got a lot of pumice rock. It's got sand. It's got good mineral content, good drainage. It also has some composted fir bark and some rice hull chicken manure compost in it. So it's a pretty good mix. It's pretty coarse. It's a little heavy, and so we like to mix it. We find we get really good results when we mix it with this kind of finer potting soil. This one is what we carry here. There's lots of other things that could be substituted, but this is Down to Earth brand potting soil, and it's got mycorrhizal fungus, which is not a bad thing, and it's based on composted wood products, and so it's lighter. It's pretty black. It's pretty well composted. Grows things pretty well, but I find it doesn't have enough texture. That one, the Clodbuster, I'm pointing at the big pile of it over there, is pretty heavy but good, and then the other one is light but kind of fine. So I find when we mix them together, we get this. So we got 2 bags of the Clodbuster, 1 bag of the Down to Earth potting soil. It's about 3 cubic feet in here, plus or minus. Those 2 and 1 bags, 3 bags was just enough to fill this. I put a couple handfuls of compost too on top. You know, normally Clodbuster is sold by them as an amendment for our local clay soils. I'm kind of bent down here trying to keep my face in the frame. But we found that actually that coarseness that it has, that's supposed to help bust up the clay soils and add texture and drainage to it, actually makes a really good potting mix, better than what they sell as a potting mix. You know, and we're kind of confined to the soil companies we have in the area. The Down to Earth is actually imported in bags on pallets and trucks from Oregon, and the Clodbuster is Acapulco Rock and Soil is just down there in central or north, what part of Richmond? Just off of Central, basically. And the only really other option we have is American Soil. But yeah, we sell the Clodbuster here, and this is all stuff we sell here, so you can come down here and get it. The pot plus the 2 bags of soil adds up to 45 bucks plus tax. It's a, you know, fairly chunky initial investment. We're doing it as cheap as we can, trying to make it available to people. But then once you have it, you have it. And we were talking about how you could just reuse this over and over again. Yeah, cool. So, planting part. So you can just, when you're planting these guys, I like to just kind of loosen around the thing and then kind of turn it upside down, push from the bottom, and let them just slide out like that. So yeah, we're going to put this in here. So this is 4 of them. I think it's about, we're kind of pushing it, putting 4 in here, but I think we'll be able to get away with that, especially how rich we made the soil. These are pretty young plants. They're not very root bound, so I don't have to do much to them. You see, I busted up the bottom just a little bit to loosen it. I'm going to put the top of this plant right at the level of the rest of the soil and just put it in there. I'm not going to, people want to have a tendency to want to pack it. I'm not going to pack it. I just did a little settling like this because I want to keep that drainage. I want to keep that porosity, the air in the soil that we work to get in here. And I'm not going to bury the stem either. I'm going to pick this old leaf off. It's a little beat up. And then, yeah, let's put these other 2 in. The other thing you can use, I've got this fancy tool here. Well, it's not that fancy. It's pretty simple. It's called like a dibbler. But you can use the back of a spoon or something if you got that. And you can use that to get these things out this way. These are all singles, so I don't have to separate them. And I'm going to do some intentional spacing here because I have an idea of how this is going to go. So, and I'll explain what I'm doing in just a second here. Go away, flies. They're like, you smell like fish fertilizer. That didn't have anything in it. All right, and the empty cells here I can just add to the soil. All right, so I've got 3 dino kale in here. Now they're fairly close. I could have separated them out in here more. In fact, that might not be a bad idea. Maybe I'll pull this one forward a little bit more, get a little bit more space between them. But this is going to be our foundation planting. These are going to be the things that stay in here the longest, and they're going to get big. So I want to give them enough space, but I'm also going to try to get some more stuff in here. So their roots, like this one's kind of moved up. I'm going to put something else back here though, so their roots will still be able to distribute themselves in here. And there's a pot over in our nursery that has a bunch of big dino kale in it. You can kind of see these are going to end up with these long big stalks, and then they're going to have sort of like a palm tree looking arrangement of leaves at the top. They'll have leaves all the way up, but we'll be harvesting from the bottom as we go. And so what we're going to end up with is like 4 long stems with these palm tree things coming off the top of them. You always press in the soil around the plants. Yeah, I mean, it's not the worst thing you can do. You know, it's not terrible, but I definitely am trying to keep the air passages for air and for water to penetrate as much as possible. And it's going to compact over time anyway. That's kind of hard to prevent. When you water, just the act of watering is going to be very compacting to it, and time is also going to settle it. So I'm trying to do as little of that initially as possible, and it's just my little stuff, you know, I like to do. So how can we get more stuff into this now? I mean, we could just do that and that's fine. It's going to take a long time, well, relatively at least, till these get big enough for us to eat, right? And we'd like food sooner than later. You know, it's going to take 2-3 months at least before I even consider like taking a few leaves off of this. So what can we do that's quicker? Well, we talked about the Gailon. The Gailon looks bigger than these, but the Gailon's only going to get about this high, and that's going to be done, and we're going to harvest it. So it's a much faster production, a much shorter growing cycle than the kale is. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to arrange this in a way that if this was all kale, it would be way overplanted. But we know that these are, as far as time goes, that these are going to be done a lot sooner, right? So we're going to take this space between the kales and use it right now for a first crop of food, right? So I'm just pulling this all out to make it easy. If it was really hot and the sun was on this right now, unfortunately, we're losing our sun already. I would only pull out one at a time because you don't want to overexpose them. But I'm just going to kind of distribute these in between. And what we can do as we do our Thursdays, we can come back to this pot and we can see how well I did, right? And see if this really worked out. Now these, there's 2 of them together. I'm going to gently separate them just to give them a little bit more space. They each kept some soil. One of the things nurseries tend to do is overplant lots of seeds because 1, you want to make sure that at least 1 seed comes up, but 2, it actually makes it look fuller faster for sale. But as long as you know to separate them, then you can get the full, you know, more value out of that. Sometimes you can traumatize things by separating them. I could leave them together, and then I just have to harvest one a lot smaller than the other one, because leaving them both together, it's going to stunt both of them, because they do compete, and plants do need some space. See if we can fit all of these Gailon in here. Again, these are going to be a quick harvest, so I'm going to kind of overdo it, right? And if they start to be too much, well, they're edible at any size. So I can just pull them out, you know, do an early harvest, and that'll be fine. So here we go. We've got our 1, 2, 3, 4 dino kales. Like I said, they're going to be our big foundational planting. Don't honk, I'm doing a class here. And then we got our faster growing, faster to harvest Gailon. Very dense in around them. But yeah, like I said, the Gailon is only going to get about big enough for this space, and then we're going to take it out. Now granted, it is my first time growing Gailon, so we'll see how well that works out. And we do have a lot of fertility in here, so they might grow even bigger than I'm expecting. Gailan is kind of like a miniature broccoli. It's mostly like a little broccoli stem. If you go to Chinatown, you can order it. They'll call it like Chinese greens, something like that. And I'm probably butchering the intonation of the pronunciation, but it's a broccoli cousin, but it's small and it grows quick. I'm assuming that these are going to be done in a month or two, and we're going to cut them small. We're going to get these dark, rich greens that we can steam and put on the side of a stir fry or something like that, or even in the stir fry. All right, so we've got this done so far. How much more food can we get in here and not overdo it? Well, we've got the garlic. Garlic doesn't get that big, that wide. I've left my front row open here. So what I'm going to do is, these were just cloves I stuck in the ground maybe a month ago. And you can see how many roots they have already. So you can just get garlic, bust it up, bust the cloves up, leave the paper on them, and do the pointy side up, the little side that grows. All right, Anyo, well, you can watch this will still stay on our Facebook page, so you can watch the rest of it later if you'd like. It'll be there for you. That's one of the great things about doing a video class. I don't like that it's not in person. I can't make eye contact with all y'all. I'm talking to my phone here. But the great thing is it stays up there and hundreds of people can watch it, and that's a lot more than could attend the class right now with COVID happening. So pros and cons, but yeah, it'll be here for you. So I'm just going around the edge and I'm putting this garlic in, and it's just going to kind of grow around the perimeter, and we'll get like 6 bulbs of garlic after this. I'm not making the holes quite big enough, so I'm going back in, making it a little deeper. Again, you want to get things into the same level that they were here. Zara, what's going on? You're all eyes. So, and I'm going to try to leave a little room in the perimeter because I'm still going to try to stick a few more things in. These garlic are pretty close, but again, we're kind of pushing it in here. The worst thing that happens with the garlic is if it's too close, you'll end up with spring garlic rather than you know, big bulbs, papery bulbs. And hey, that's still good with me. I mean, you can eat any part of the garlic. We could eat these greens right now. All right, now we got 3 things in here. And if you want, you can keep your little name tags with them so people know what it is. I don't know what I did with the name tag for the, whatchamacallit, for the dino kale. That's fine. I just found I put a few more of these Gailan out aside. So I'm going to stick those in right here and maybe right here. I have a plan for back here, so I'm leaving that open, and then we're going to really push it here. Maybe stick this one in here. So once more, I'm going to repeat that if this was all kale, this would be a disaster because they would just be totally competing for space in here. But again, I'm counting on these being done in as soon as a month and not getting very big. And we can pull them out at any time. And so we're basically using the time and space in between these few kales to get some food first while we're waiting for these. And then when these are gone, these can then totally fill in the rest of the space and take the rest of it. Okay, and so yeah, the dino kale, the Gailan, the garlic. Are we done? I'm gonna push it even more, believe it or not. So what else? I got choices here, choices. Let's stick a few chives in here. Let's grab a thyme, put a thyme up front, and we can slip in a little cilantro. So this is like the Gailan. It's going to be very fast. It's a very light feeder. It's not going to compete for nutrients too much. I'm going to use my little dibbler tool to get it out. It's going to be good at kind of growing in between other things. So I'm going to slip a little bit in maybe between the garlic, and while the garlic's filling in that space, we'll get some cilantro. And again, I keep saying again, but just trying to drive this point home that really working with timing here, knowing what the timing and the demands of these things are going to be. One of the things that people complain about with cilantro is that it goes to seed really quickly. But we're going to use that to our advantage in here and just use this short time span, this short growth period, to kind of slip it in here in between other people who are going to take a longer time to finish up, right? So I'm just finding little spaces here wherever I see the most spaces. This is a weed that grew in here, so I'm not going to plant that. And we're going to stick in some cilantro. So now we're going to get some cilantro out of this as well. Yeah. And thyme is a nice perennial cooking herb. Basil could work. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, Chinese broccoli. But not right now. Basil is a hot summer thing. So we can't grow basil right now. It wouldn't do very well outside at all. We're going to keep this outside. You can put it on the patio. Doesn't need full sun, but at this time of year, you would like it to get as much sun as possible to help all the stuff grow. And also basil tends to hang out for a while, and it takes up a good amount of space. So in this case, basil would be more of a foundational planting, like I'd use it maybe instead of the kale as a summer thing. Got a little thyme here we did from a cutting. And thyme is a nice culinary herb, and it doesn't take up a whole lot of space. I'm going to stick it up front here with the intention that it's going to grow and kind of hang over the surface here. So we'll be able to harvest a little thyme off of it, a little flavor. And also, it's also there as a companion planting idea, because what thyme has is flowers that bees and our beneficial insects really like. So it's going to provide some forage for beneficial insects, pollinators, bees. The cilantro will do the same thing. So the cilantro is there not just as an interstitial planting and interplanting, but it's also there to add a little pest control for this by attracting the predators that will eat the things that are going to prey on our greens here. So we'll see how that goes. The Gailon probably won't have as much of a problem because it's quick. The dino kale will be in here longer. We are going into the cooler season, so we have less pest problems then when that happens. So this is getting pretty full now. I think we're just about done. It's pretty heavy, but we're going to be pulling things out of here as they go along. A real common mistake that beginner gardeners do is they overplant, right? Like we're doing right here, because you want to make things look full when you're done, rather than spacing things out enough to give them the space to grow in. But hopefully we're accounting for that by the timing of things, knowing that most of this is going to come out in the next month or two. And then up here, so we got another perennial herb. We've got our thyme up here. This is chives. Chives is a perennial herb too that will keep growing over time. Well, not over the time, hopefully, but over time. I'm going to open it up a little bit and spread it out. And then I'm going to take this whole thing. I could have busted it up. I'm going to just shove it in the front, right up over here. Boop. And we'll get some chives along the edge, and that should last as long as this container planting lasts. I'm going to grab a little soil from my other pot here. Oops, I actually messed up my kale. There we go. And then, where was this? I had 1, 2, 3. I'll put this back in here, I guess. This kale somewhere along the way got messed up. 1, 2, 3. I'm confused now. I feel like oh, here it is. There's number 4. Okay, be careful. I'm being a little fast and rough here. But it's cool. The soil's moist. I think we're going to be all right. Had a big movement there to get those chives in. But I'm just going to clean them up, make sure nothing's covered, everybody's exposed. So yeah, we got perennial chives here, perennial thyme, so we got some herbs coming out of here. And we're just about done, except now I'm going to use the vertical to get some more stuff in. Oop, you got a weekly 3:45 commitment, but truly appreciate being able to come back to the videos. Cool, JJ. See you later. And thanks for coming in. Thanks for chatting. So I'm going to do one more thing here to get more stuff in. I'm going to adjust the camera a little bit. So hopefully this will work out. I'm going to lift it up a little bit. You guys tell me if I did this high enough. If you can still see the pot, hopefully. But taking the dogs for a walk. Okay, thank you. All right. The son's taking the dogs for a walk. Okay, I'm going to put a quickie trellis in here. So I'm just going to use some bamboo and get them in here. Although, why I left a little space in the back. And on this, we're going to do some peas. Peas are also good in the winter. Put this in the center. Get them down in there. The height, I don't know if you can see the top here, but my height limit is going to be as far as I can comfortably reach. So I'm going to go ahead, cut these other ones about that height. And then these parts I take off the top we're going to use in just a second. So we're going to do that. And then I'm going to kind of fan these out a little bit. Make sure they're well anchored at the bottom. Get a little bit more area as we go up here. And can you guys see the top here? I'm good. I'm doing an online class right now. Yeah, I'm teaching people how to plant this container up. We're doing a little garden here. Yeah, you doing all right? Cool. So yeah, these pieces I cut off the top, I'm just going to lash them up here. Hopefully I can do this fairly quickly on camera. Let's keep it simple. I can reinforce this more afterwards, but I'm just going to tie it on one of the nodes here and tie that on up here to another node using the bumps as places to lash things to. There, right there, I could have cut these strings a little quicker, or I mean a little shorter to make things easier on myself. But I'm just going to do a real quick dash example right there. Cool. And then right here. So I'm going to spread it out a little bit. Kind of try to get a fair amount of surface area up here for as many peas as we can get on here. I'm just going to tie it straight on like that. Speed things up. But you need at least one cross piece so that you can stabilize it. Cannot see the top? Okay. There we go. Can you guys see it now? I don't have a camera person today, so I'm just kind of fudging this as I go. Thank you, Zara. Right on. Glad you liked it. Okay, so let's get another one of these cross pieces on up here. Again, this is just sort of slapdash demo purposes. I'll come back and reinforce this a bit. Let's tie this on. But yeah, we're just getting a little bit more space out of this by using the vertical dimension in the back. And peas are great during the winter, and they also aren't very heavy feeders. So we can add them to the system without overburdening it too much, overtaxing it. And we're going to use the vertical. So the way that this would have to be oriented is you, the camera, you're the sun. And the short people are in the front, and the tall people are in the back. So this part would have to face north, this part south, so that this won't shadow that. So yeah, we have a very rudimentary start of a trellis here. And we've got just 3 poles, cross pieces. And then what we could do from here is pretty simple. Now that these won't come together, I got to reinforce it a little bit more. But we can just start some string. You know, actually the easiest way to do this, I'm going to put one more piece down here. Let me just see how big it needs to be. Something like that. I'm just cutting these bamboos with some garden clippers. The bigger pieces I just cut with an old saw. Just did that before this. So going back down a little bit here. Let's see, I don't know if you guys can see down there. It's a little tricky because the camera doesn't show the whole frame for some reason. Found out it's actually bigger than I see there. I'm trying to keep it close enough that you guys can see what's going on. But let's do a very rudimentary tie job here. Let's see. Keep grabbing for my handy dandy Leatherman too, that is always with me whenever I need to cut something. Alright. Tie another cross piece along the bottom here. You could do this with like a tomato cage or some wire or anything really. I just happen to have some bamboo laying around, some sticks. It's totally DIY, whatever you want to do. But yeah, with the cross piece on the top and the bottom, now we can just tie this on somewhere. And I could do this later too, but might as well do it now, get it handled before the peas grow. Because chances are, if I didn't do it now, I'd wait too late and then I'd have these tangled up peas. You can just go up and down like this and make a nice thing for the peas to climb up. I'm doing it vertically because the peas are going to need to climb up. You can put this as densely as you want. Now I just get to be the spider, weaving the spider web for the peas. So I'm just going to leave it at that. I'm not going to do the whole thing right now, but I think you guys should get the idea of what I'm going for here. So we just added another dimension of productivity to this pot. Here we go. Put my knife aside so I don't kneel on it. And then let's get this back down so you can see what's going on. Alright, can you guys see the pot now again? Let me know. I tried making a similar trellis for your sweet peas and they pulled the whole thing down. Yeah, so with that in mind, I'm not going to put too many on here. This 6-pack has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 peas. And we planted 2 per cell just to make sure there was 1 per cell, but we got 100% germination in this. Imagine that. So I'm just going to loosen these up, take them out. One pea, these are sugar snap peas. The edible potted ones, you just eat the whole thing. One pea could probably cover this whole trellis, so I'm not going to put too many. They do tend to get eaten by snails, birds. Everybody likes young peas. Young pea shoots are edible to us too. So I'm just going to put like 2 or 3 per each panel of this trellis I made. 3 per is probably too much. I should probably just leave it 2 like that. So yeah, these little guys, they're in the back of the pot. Again, peas aren't very heavy feeders. Move these other containers out of my way. So they won't be too demanding in here. They actually, as a legume, pea family plants actually harvest a little of their own nitrogen from the air. So overall, they won't be giving a net amount of nitrogen, but it makes their impact way less. So there we go. I got 1, 2, 3, 4 peas back here. Seems like a small addition right now, but these are going to become vines, little pea vines, that then grow up all the way up these trellises. And it's going to cover this whole surface area here with more food. So I think we're done now. If folks have any more questions on what we did, but I'll do a quick recap, and then we'll revisit this pot in future classes. And we'll see how well I did, or how badly I did, seeing how it goes. All right, JJ, see you later. Thank you very much for joining. But yeah, we've got our container garden planted now, and this is going to be a fair amount of food out of one 25-gallon pot here. So yeah, our foundational, I'll just do a quick recap one more time, is our foundational planting is 4 dino kales. Those are going to be the dominant thing in here. It's going to be one of the things that hangs out in here the longest. Depending on their flowering next year, I don't want to overcomplicate and talk about that right now, but these can get pretty big palm tree-like things, and they can get nearly as tall as this whole trellis thing I built. So yeah, so those are the ones that are going to stick around for the most part. Now, we added a bunch of stuff between those, knowing that those are going to take a while, and there's all this space in between them. So we've added gailan and cilantro as a quick harvest, filling in between those longer term bigger things. And in a month or two, we're going to have mostly eaten those as these fill in. So I'll bring you back when we do that, when the harvest of those, see how they go. Along the front perimeter, we've added a few other things. We've got some perennial herbs that can just hang out in the front here. We've got some chives and some thyme, and those will kind of fill in, get bigger in these spaces, and we can kind of trim off them as we go. And then also filling in the perimeter, we've got 6 garlics that will do their garlic thing in there. They're pretty narrow, so they shouldn't get too broad. They should be good in front of the kales. And then in the back, just to add even a bit more food, we've got 4 of these sugar pod peas. They're going to grow on this little makeshift trellis we made, and we'll get a fair amount of peas off that. So this is a good amount of food. How many inches across is this pot? I'd say this is not quite 2 feet across. I'd say, I know this is 3 inches. I don't have a tape measure with me right now. I'd give this maybe, I don't know, maybe 20 inches across, roughly guessing. It's a 25-gallon pot, and like I said, here, there's a lot of different ways you could do this, a lot of different sizes, containers, soil mixes, but here this would have been a $45 investment, not counting the plants, just to get this in here. Not counting the fertilizer either. The fertilizer would be another $10. So if you bought this big box of fertilizer, which would last you through more than a year, maybe 2 years of growing in this pot, many harvest cycles, that got you up to $55. But then you have this, and then you just add a few plants, add a little compost, add another few tablespoons of your fertilizer, as you go along. Yeah, and the last step, I'm not going to do it on camera right now because I got to go off and get the hose, but you got to water this right away. So I'm going to water it, and these guys are young. It's going to kind of mash them down a little bit. I'm going to gently just make them stand up again, and once they're in here for a little while, they should get nice and sturdy and stand up well. So yeah, how amazed how close to the edge. Yeah, I'm kind of pushing it, but I'm trying to use all the available stuff in here. We made the soil extra rich, hopefully not too rich that we're going to burn anything, but enough that there's a good amount of fertility to support this stuff. Again, we'll see how I did. You know, the garlics, we're going to end up with the garlics and 4 kale and these perennial herbs. Maybe keep doing the peas up the back, but a lot of this other interplanting will be gone. So, overplanting, but with a plan. So, we'll see how it goes. Anyway, I think that's probably good enough for today, unless there's any more questions. I don't want to make this too long because I don't want people to be intimidated from clicking on it later and watching the whole thing. But yeah, I really appreciate everyone who joined and asked questions and made nice comments and everything. And if you have more questions about this, I'll be keeping my eye on the comments down below, as this video is going to stay up on our Facebook page. So you can ask more questions, keep interacting. This is how we can do the classes for now. So, you know, hopefully, let me know. We got a new mic on there today, so let me know how that did. I know you can hear more traffic, but I think hopefully I sound more natural too, and I don't have it plugged in my ears as much. So, yeah. And just in general, for Spiral Gardens, you can come in this weekend, Saturday, Sunday, 10 to 5, if you want to get the stuff to set this up yourself or ask me more questions about it. If you do come in, let me know you watched the video so I know I can get a little face-to-face contact with the viewers out there. And yeah, so sales here, Saturday, Sunday, 10 to 5. If you want to volunteer and participate, we're available for that Tuesday through Friday through November, from noon to 5. You can email and stuff, but probably easiest way for us right now, since we're a little swamped, is just come in. And if there's room, and there's still room for safe distancing of people, definitely bring your mask, come in and volunteer. So yeah, thank you very much. Liza says, Daniel, I have a question from last week's topic, roly-poly bugs, how to deal with them. I haven't found roly-polies, sow bugs, pill bugs to be much of an issue. I don't get a whole lot of problem with them. Generally, if you have a mulch, you can get more of them. If the mulch is nice and yummy and decomposing, they're detritivores, which means they eat decomposing things. So mainly, if there's enough decomposing stuff, they're going to be all about that. The only time they really eat plants is if there isn't enough decomposing stuff, or you've like attracted them with the mulch, but the mulch isn't decomposing enough to feed them, you know. But if it's a problem, you can take the mulch off, which means you'll need to water more, but you won't be providing habitat for the roly-polies, the pill bugs, the sow bugs. But again, they have not been a major issue for me gardening. I have much more issue with slugs and snails, and with aphids, with cabbage caterpillars, and so on. I put those guys way down the list as far as problems go. And if I get damage from them, it's usually just a few holes in the young seedlings. And they'll only really eat young seedlings. They're not able to eat larger plants. So once you get to a certain size, go ahead and mulch away, because they won't be able to eat your big stuff, just your little tenders. Okay, I don't see any more questions. So again, thank you everybody for coming, joining. Hoping this inspires you to plant some food, even if you don't have your own ground to do it in. You can do it in containers, or you can do it in addition to your ground. But this is one thing to do. And yeah, good luck. Let me know how it goes. All right, bye-bye everybody. I'm gonna get up here and turn this off. Bye-bye.